Fiddlesticks' passive is Dread. All nearby enemies have reduced magic resist. Terrify inflicts target enemy with fear for a few seconds, slowing it and causing it to run around randomly. I take Terrify at level 4 and max it by level 13. Drain channels on target enemy, damaging it and returning a percentage of that damage as health to Fiddlesticks. I take Drain at level 1 and max it immediately. Dark Wind sends out a bouncing nuke that damages and silences enemies with each hit. I take Dark Wind at level 2 and leave it there. Crowstorm is Fiddlesticks' ultimate. After a brief channel, Fiddlesticks blinks to target location, and for the next few seconds deals massive damage to nearby enemies. Sivir's passive is Fleet of Foot. Whenever Sivir strikes an enemy champion with an attack, she gains bonus movement speed for a short time. Boomerang Blade sends out her crossblade forward and then back to her, damaging all enemies it passes through. Boomerang Blade can hit any target twice, both on the way out and on the way back, but it deals less damage as it passes through more targets. Note that Boomerang Blade will follow Sivir on the way back, so you can move to add some extra finesse to the ability. Take Boomerang Blade at level 1 and max it by level 9. Ricochet empowers Sivir's next basic attack to deal bonus damage and then bounce to additional targets. Take your first point early and max Ricochet by level 13. Spell Shield creates a brief shield on Sivir that blocks the first hostile spell cast on her. If Spell Shield successfully blocks a spell, Sivir is refunded the cost of Spell Shield plus some bonus mana. Take a point in Spell Shield early on for protection, but max it only after Boomerang Blade and Ricochet. On the Hunt buffs and creates an aura around Sivir for a moderate duration. Sivir gains significantly increased movement and attack speeds. Nearby allies gain the same movement speed buff, but a smaller attack speed buff. Corki's passive is Hextech Shrapnel Shells. All of Corki's basic attacks deal bonus true damage. This damage scales with critical strikes and with Sheen, Trinity Force, and Lichbane, but not with items like Madrid's Blood Razor and Malady. Phosphorus Bomb reveals and damages enemies in the target area. Note that while Phosphorus Bomb will show enemies hiding in brush or behind a wall, it will not reveal wards or invisible champions. Valkyrie sends Corki to target location, leaving behind a wake of fire that damages enemies standing inside it. Gatling Gun repeatedly damages enemies in a cone in front of Corki. Struck enemies continuously lose armor while getting hit by Gatling Gun. Missile Barrage sends out a skill shot nuke that explodes on the first enemy it hits, damaging all nearby enemies. Every fourth missile sent out is a big one that deals more damage in a larger area. While Missile Barrage is on a very short cooldown, it is also limited by an ammo system. Ammo for this ability recharges slower than the basic cooldown. Singed's passive is Empowered Bulwark. A percentage of Singed's maximum mana is added to his maximum health. Basically, if you buy items that give mana, you'll become more durable. Poison Trail is a toggled ability. While toggled on, it leaves behind a trail of poison. Enemies who walk through the poison trail become poisoned and take damage over a short time. Mega Adhesive creates an area on the ground that slows the movement speed of all enemies inside it. Fling damages and tosses target enemy over your shoulder, landing behind you. Insanity Potion empowers Singed for a moderate duration, granting him increased health and mana regeneration, movement speed, armor, and magic resist, while reducing the duration of all crowd control effects on Singed. Teemo's passive is Camouflage. If Teemo stands still for a few seconds, he becomes invisible. Any action from this state will remove the invisibility and give Teemo a temporary attack speed buff. Blinding Dart damages and blinds target enemy, rendering all basic attacks useless for a short time. I grab a point here at level 2 and max it last. Move Quick is a passive active ability. As long as Teemo has not been struck by a champion or turret in a while, he enjoys bonus movement speed. When activated, Teemo gains a much stronger movement speed boost that lasts a few seconds and is not interrupted by damage. I take Move Quick at level 3 and max it by level 13. Toxic Shot passively causes Teemo's basic attacks to deal bonus damage and poison the target. This poison deals extra damage over a few seconds. I max Toxic Shot by level 9. Teemo's ultimate is Noxious Trap, which places an invisible poisonous mushroom on the ground. Enemies who step over the mushroom cause it to explode, damaging and slowing surrounding enemies for a few seconds. Noxious Trap is placed on an ammo system. Teemo may store up to 3 mushrooms and place them in quick succession. As with all ultimates, I rank it at levels 6, 11, and 16.
His first ability is Transfusion. It's a direct single target nuke. which heals him for 1/4 of the damage. Second is Sanguine Pool. Vladimir dissolves into liquid, slowing and damaging enemies he floats under. He heals himself for 15% of the damage dealt, dodges any projectiles thrown at him, and removes all enemy minion aggro. Tides of Blood is his third spell. It deals damage to nearby enemies and gives Vladimir bonus healing and regeneration. If he casts the spell quickly in sequence, it increases the damage, health cost, and healing gain. Vladimir's ultimate is Hemoplague. Afflicted enemies take bonus damage from all sources for 5 seconds, and take significant damage afterwards.
I know what I'm doing.
Her passive is Strut, which gives bonus movement speed that builds up over time if she hasn't taken damage in a while. Any damage will knock her out of Strut, so if her speed is giving you trouble, give her a little poke. Double Up is a physical damage nuke. The shot bounces to a second enemy that's behind your target. I max this ability first. Impure Shots gives bonus damage as she repeatedly hits a target. On activate, she gains attack speed and reduces incoming healing of the targets she hits. I max Impure Shots by level 13. Make It Rain showers an area with bullets, slowing enemies and dealing damage over a short time. I drop 1 point here at level 2, and max it last. Misfortune's ultimate is Bullet Time, hitting all enemies in a cone for some significant damage. Because it's a channeled spell, assassins with interrupts like Kassadin or Udyr can stop her.
Karma has 2 main builds, as either an AP burst caster or a support mage. She also uses a new secondary resource system called Mantra. Mantra replaces Karma's ultimate and is learned immediately upon spawning. Instead of learning an ultimate, her other 3 abilities all have 6 ranks instead of 5. When she activates Mantra, the next regular ability she casts will have a bonus effect. Mantra may only be used twice before recharging. Mantra charges recover faster with cooldown reduction. Karma's first ability is Heavenly Wave. Unmodified, it deals damage to all enemy targets in a cone. With Mantra activated first, Heavenly Wave also heals yourself and your teammates in the same area for a base amount plus a percentage of their missing health. Second is Spirit Bond. Spirit Bond tethers an ally or enemy to Karma. Karma gains movement speed while the target gains or loses movement speed if it's an ally or enemy respectively. Additionally, units who move through the tether also gain or lose movement speed. Enemies who pass through the tether also take damage. When amplified by Mantra, the movement speed haste or slow is doubled. Karma's third ability is Soul Shield. Target ally gains a shield blocking a flat amount of damage. With Mantra activated, enemies near your target take damage the instant you cast the shield. Finally, Karma's passive is Inner Flame. She gains bonus AP for being low on health. This can allow her to cast stronger shields or heals, deceiving her opponents with more durability than is expected.
Trundle is a tanky DPS champion, somewhat similar to Singed. He's also an extremely potent jungler and ganker, lending to a very powerful early game. Trundle's passive is Decompose. Whenever an enemy minion, monster, or champion dies, a percentage of its max health is converted into healing for Trundle. Now, let's introduce his active abilities. First comes Rabid Bite. Trundle lurches forward, biting his target. He deals physical damage and steals a portion of the target's attack damage for a few seconds. The cooldown is shorter than the duration, so you should be constantly beefing yourself up. Second is Contaminate. Trundle corrupts an area of the ground, and when he's on it, he moves and attacks faster, while also lowering the duration of crowd control effects like stuns and slows that affect him. His most signature ability is Pillar of Filth. Trundle creates an impassable pillar on the ground, which also slows nearby enemies, allowing you to block off passages or simply slow enemies for a chase or escape. Trundle's ultimate is Agony. Agony deals damage and lowers the target's armor and magic resist by a percentage which increases over time. Trundle also steals all those stats for himself while the buff is on.
Gangplank's passive is Grog-Soaked Blade. Every attack that Gangplank makes places a stack of Grog-Soaked Blade on his target, up to a cap. Each stack damages and slows the movement of whoever's been struck. Parlay shoots target enemy with Gangplank's pistol, dealing damage. This shot applies on-hit effects such as Sheen, Lifesteal, and Grog-Soaked Blade. Parlay can also critically strike his targets. Additionally, If Parlay kills its target, Gangplank is awarded bonus gold. I take Parlay at level 1 and max it last. Remove Scurvy causes Gangplank to eat a bunch of oranges, healing Gangplank and removing all crowd control effects, such as slows and stuns that afflict him. Raise Morale passively gives Gangplank increased attack damage and movement speed. When activated, Gangplank gains an even larger bonus to these stats, and grants a smaller bonus to nearby allied champions as well. I take Raise Morale at level 2 and max it by level 9. Cannon Barrage marks an area on the map for a few seconds, slowing all enemies in the area and causing cannonballs to fall randomly in the area, damaging anything they strike. Omen of War causes Yorick's next attack to deal bonus damage and summons a Spectral Ghoul, which moves quickly and deals bonus damage. While the Spectral Ghoul is out, Yorick moves faster. Omen of Pestilence damages and slows enemies in an area and summons a Decaying Ghoul, which will continue to slow enemies around it. Omen of Famine damages target enemy, heals Yorick for a percentage of that damage, and summons a Ravenous Ghoul, which heals Yorick for the damage it deals. Omen of Death creates a clone of target allied champion for a few seconds. If the ally dies while the clone is alive, the clone sacrifices itself to temporarily reanimate the ally. Yorick's passive is Unholy Covenant. Yorick deals bonus damage on his attacks for each ghoul active. Additionally, all of Yorick's ghouls scale off of his own health and damage.
Gallo is primarily a tank, with a few splashes of burst magic damage and support. His passive, Runic Skin, converts his magic resist into ability power, meaning that as he becomes more resilient against spells, he increases the power of his own. Gallo's first skill is Resolute Smite. He casts a projectile to a target area, damaging and slowing enemies. Second comes Bulwark. This is Gallo's primary support skill, increasing his or an ally's armor and magic resist significantly. Additionally, any time that target is struck by a champion, Gallo is healed. Righteous Gust is Gallo's third skill. He deals damage to enemies in a line, and sets up a directional wind tunnel. Allies running in the same direction of your cast will run faster while inside it. Gallo's ultimate is Idol of Durand. He channels a taunt while taking reduced damage. At the end of the taunt, he deals bonus damage, based on how many times he was hit while channeling.
Urgot is an interesting champion, who starts out dealing crazy damage and controlling his lane, before settling into a tank and assassin type role, relying on his ultimate and his team to kill important enemy targets. Urgot's passive is Zon-Touched Bolt Augmenter. His basic attacks and first ability reduce his target's damage for a short time. First is Acid Hunter. He fires a simple physical damage missile to the target location and applies his passive. Terror Capacitor is second. Urgot places a shield on himself, which absorbs damage. Until it breaks or times out, his basic attacks and his Acid Hunter slow the targets he hits. While the slow is short, it can stack upon itself. Third, Urgot may cast Noxian Corrosive Charge. This is an area of effect nuke which deals damage over time, lowers armor, and most importantly allows Acid Hunter to lock onto the target. Now, if you cast Acid Hunter with your cursor over the target, it will always hit. Urgot's ultimate is the Hyperkinetic Position Reverser. He stuns his target and channels for a second, swapping positions with the target and slowing him, while Urgot briefly gains armor and magic resist.
Evelyn's passive is Shadow Walk. As long as Evelyn has not recently dealt damage, received damage, or activated an ability, Evelyn is stealthed. While stealthed, she rapidly regenerates her mana and is undetectable unless she gets revealed by an enemy turret, vision ward, or champion. Evelyn can skirt on the edges of a champion's vision range, stalking them while undetected. Hate Spike fires out a line of damaging spikes that prefers to target Evelyn's most recently attacked foe. As her main damage tool, take Hate Spike at level 1 and max it immediately. Dark Frenzy passively grants Evelyn stacking bonus movement speed up to a cap whenever she hits an enemy champion with one of her abilities. When activated, Dark Frenzy purges all slows from Evelyn and grants her even more bonus movement speed. Dark Frenzy's cooldown is reset whenever Evelyn kills or assists in the kill of an enemy champion. Definitely take a point in Dark Frenzy at level 4 or earlier, but max it last, by level 18. Ravage strikes target enemy twice, dealing damage and granting Evelyn bonus attack speed. To further increase her damage, take a point in Ravage early and max it by level 13. Evelyn's ultimate is Agony's Embrace. Agony's Embrace hits all enemies in an area, damaging based on maximum health, and slowing for a few seconds. Evelyn also gains a shield that gets more powerful for every champion hit.
Swain is a caster who specializes in taking down single targets and disabling enemies. Deathfire Grasp and Riley's Crystal Scepter are two huge must-have items for reasons I'll show you throughout this video. Swain's passive, Carrion Renewal, gives him a mana regeneration buff for a few seconds whenever he kills an enemy minion or champion. Unfortunately, we didn't have all his icons ready when I recorded this game, so a few of Swain's icons are images of Karthus. Swain's Q spell is Decrepify, or as we call it here at Riot, the Laser Bird. Laser Bird deals damage and slows a single target over 3 seconds. However, the spell is on a tether, so enemies can walk out of range to break it early. You may choose to max Laser Bird first, but I choose to max it second, after Torment. On W is Nevermore. You target an area on the ground, and after a short delay, targets hit by it are rooted in place for a few seconds. Because the only meaningful level up is cooldown, I keep Nevermore at 1 point until level 14. Torment is on E. It deals damage over 4 seconds, and also deals extra damage every second based on how much you've hurt your target. This bonus damage compounds on itself, so front-loading damage with Deathfire Grasp will heavily increase your damage output. As Swain's main damage spell, I max Torment right away. Ravenous Flock is Swain's ultimate. He transforms into a raven and sends out pets to nearby enemies. The pets also return to heal him for a portion of the damage dealt. Blade Surge is her first ability. It's a single target blink strike, dealing physical damage and applying on-hit effects. If it kills the target, the full cooldown and part of the mana cost is refunded. Hiten Style is a passive active ability. Just by learning it, Aurelia will heal after every attack she makes. When activated, it adds bonus true damage to her attacks. Equilibrium Strike is Aurelia's third ability. It's a short-range, single-target nuke that normally slows her target, but if Aurelia is more damaged than her foe, the spell will stun instead. Aurelia's ultimate is Transcendent Blades. After activating it, she has a few seconds to shoot 4 daggers, which hit enemies in a line. These daggers also return health to Aurelia based on their damage dealt. Finally, Aurelia's passive is Ionian Fervor. When she is near enemy champions, crowd control effects like slows and stuns are shorter. Klee plays as a ninja assassin, dashing in and out of battles and dealing tons of damage. She's intended to be a hybrid damage/ability power champion, as her passive gives her bonus damage on attacks depending on ability power, but also gives your spells lifesteal depending on how much damage you've built up. Mark of the Assassin is a great harassing and farming tool, especially if you can trigger the bonus damage by attacking your target. Twilight Shroud is a must-have in larger battles, letting you dart in and out of stealth to stay healthy. Crescent Slash is the main ability I use in this game, which can steal lots of health with your passive and farm minions very quickly. Her ultimate, Shadow Dance, allows you great mobility and a lot of extra damage. Sona is our newest support champion. She excels at buffing her teammates and controlling her lane. Her 3 main abilities have an active effect as well as a passive aura that stays on until 3 seconds after she casts a new ability. With enough cooldown reduction, you can keep all 3 auras on your teammates. Sona's passive, Power Chord, gives her next basic attack significant bonus damage after every 3 spell casts. Hymn of Valor damages 2 nearby enemies on activate and prefers to target enemy champions. Its aura is blue and gives ability power and damage to her and nearby allies. I get 1 point early and max it last. Aria of Perseverance heals herself and the most injured nearby ally when cast. Its aura is green and increases her friend's armor and magic resist. I max this ability first. Song of Celerity has 2 movement increases. The aura is purple and gives her and all nearby teammates flat movement speed, while the activation briefly gives an additional boost. I get 1 point at level 3 and max it by level 13. Sona's ultimate is Crescendo. It's a skill shot line nuke, making enemy champions dance in place while taking damage.
Udyr performs a few unique roles on his team. First and foremost, he is an extremely strong jungler with Phoenix and Turtle stances. Second, he is one of the game's best gankers, using Bear Stance and the various buffs he has acquired. Finally, he is a tanky DPS champion, with very little item reliance. Your goal is to disrupt your enemies and try to take down squishy targets first, saving your other enemies for last. As with most junglers, you should start out with the Golem camp when it spawns at 155. Note my positioning, allowing me to hit all the monsters at once with Phoenix Stance. Smite will deal exactly 560 damage at level 1, so get ready to kill Golem when it reaches that mark. Depending on your health, once Smite comes back up, you should try to grab the Lizard. As you reach level 3, Smite deals 646 damage. At this point, you can grab a rank of Bear Stance and gank with it, or rank Phoenix Stance to increase your damage output and jungle faster. The true power of Smite is shown when ganking enemies in the jungle. Normally, Shaco would have been able to survive the encounter by deceiving out, but without the mana he was so desperately relying on, I make short work of him with Lizard buff and the various stances. I happen across Shen and Soraka, chasing Soraka away as Garen cuts her off. Shortly, Shen and Tristana start to gang up on me. However, our damage output is too great, and even as Shen tries to kill me at the end, Turtle Stance keeps me alive as I help pick up the kill with my team.
Lux's Q ability is Light Binding. Light Binding is a linear skill shot that snares up to 2 targets and deals damage to them. The secondary target only receives half of the damage and half of the snare effect. Prismatic Barrier is Lux's main support ability. It is a boomerang type skill shot that fires out to its maximum range and back. Any allies hit by the ability receive a damage shield, and the damage shield can refresh when the boomerang returns, shielding up to 2 times the damage. Lux also receives the shield upon casting and when the projectile returns. Her E ability is Lucent Singularity. It is a great utility spell for controlling the battlefield. Lux throws a ball of light to an area which slows all enemy units around it. After 5 seconds, the ball detonates to deal damage. You can also cancel the ability early to deal the damage faster. This ability is also great for scouting, as it provides a vision bubble around it when it's active. Lux's ultimate spell is Finalis Funkeln, also known as the Mega Death Laser. It is a long-range skill shot, however, it is not global. After gathering energy, Lux fires a beam of light that instantly fries all enemy units in its path. One thing to note is this ability instantly deals damage when it fires, and has no traveling time. It's on a short cooldown, so feel free to use it frequently. Lux's passive, Illumination, causes all of her damage-dealing spells to charge the target with energy. Lux can activate the energy on the target with a normal attack to deal extra damage. Correctly utilizing Lux's passive is crucial to maximizing her damage.
Holy Fervor causes Kale's attacks to shred a percentage of the target's armor and magic resist. This shred stacks multiple times and lasts a few seconds. Reckoning damages and slows target enemy, also giving Kale bonus damage against the target. The most notable changes to this ability are a significant increase to the missile speed and target slow, while lowering the damage amplification. Divine Blessing heals target ally and increases its movement speed. The remade version significantly increases the power of the haste but lowers its duration, while also increasing the cooldown to make her less sustainable in lane. Righteous Fury empowers Kale for a few seconds, giving her a ranged attack which deals bonus magic damage and splashes onto nearby enemies. The major changes in the rework are more damage and splash range, while decreasing the cooldown and AP ratio. Kale's ultimate is Intervention.
Intervention completely shields target ally from all damage for a few seconds. This ability is unchanged in the remake.
The first ability is Sigil of Silence. LeBlanc projects an orb towards her target, dealing magic damage and marking the target for 3.5 seconds. If the target takes damage from one of LeBlanc's abilities, the mark will trigger, dealing damage and silencing the target. The second ability is Distortion. LeBlanc rapidly moves to a target location, dealing magic damage to nearby units. In the following 3 seconds, she can activate Distortion again to return to her starting location. The third ability is Ethereal Chains. LeBlanc flings illusionary chains towards the target location. If it hits an enemy unit, it will deal initial magic damage and slow their movement speed by 25%. If the target remains shackled for 2 seconds, the target takes additional magic damage and is unable to move. Her ultimate is Mimic. LeBlanc can cast the previous spell she cast. The mimicked spell deals significantly increased damage and is on a 30-second cooldown. Properly choosing which spell to mimic will separate the great LeBlancs from the good. Her passive is Mirror Image. When LeBlanc is brought below 40% health, she instantly becomes stealth for half a second. When the stealth fades, she creates a mirror image that deals no damage and lasts for up to 8 seconds. Mirror Image is only about deception and not damage like Hallucinate. It is intended to fit thematically while not disrupting your combat rhythm.
Cassiopeia's passive is Deadly Cadence. After casting a spell, future spells cast in the next 5 seconds will be 10% cheaper. This effect stacks up to 5 times, for 50% off. Her first ability is Noxious Blast. Similar to Karthus' Lay Waste, she poisons targets near your cursor after a brief delay. If she hits a champion, she gains bonus movement speed for a short time. The hardest lesson to learn about Noxious Blast is that it has a 3-second cooldown, which is more difficult than you might think to remember if you're used to playing Karthus. Second is Miasma. A growing cloud of poison appears at target location, which damages and slows enemies that walk over it. Third is Twin Fang. She sends out a simple, single-target nuke whose cooldown almost immediately refreshes if she hits a poisoned target. Cassiopeia's ultimate is Petrifying Gaze. She damages enemies in a cone in front of her. If they're facing her, they're turned into stone and stunned, otherwise they're slowed. Caitlyn's passive is Headshot. After every few shots, Caitlyn will deal bonus damage to the next minion, monster, or champion she attacks. Caitlyn charges up Headshot faster if she attacks while in brush. Piltover Peacemaker is Caitlyn's first spell. She fires out a shot that hits enemy targets in a line, dealing reduced damage as it hits more targets. Second is the Yordle Snap Trap. Caitlyn places a trap down that triggers when an enemy champion walks over it. The trap deals damage and roots the champion in place for a short time. 90 caliber net fires out a projectile that damages and slows the first enemy it hits. Caitlyn is also pushed backwards when she fires it. Caitlyn's ultimate is Ace in the Hole. Caitlyn channels to fire out a bullet to a target enemy champion. While the bullet will never miss, an enemy champion may walk into the bullet's path and take the shot for his teammate. Renekton is a melee DPS champion, utilizing a new mechanic, Fury. Fury replaces his mana bar and is gained by attacking. His abilities are all normally free, but when he's built up enough Fury, he spends it to empower that spell. Furious abilities always deal more damage and have a bonus effect. Reign of Anger is Renekton's passive. While below half health, Renekton gains 50% more Fury from all sources. Cull the Meek damages nearby enemies, healing for a fraction of the damage dealt, and gaining Fury for each target hit. This heal fraction is higher when hitting champions. Both the health and Fury gains are capped. When Renekton has 50 or more Fury, he deals 50% bonus damage, while the heal fraction and heal cap are increased. Ruthless Predator makes his next attack hit twice for bonus damage and a stun. While Furious, his attack hits 3 times with a longer stun. Slice and Dice makes Renekton dash forward, damaging enemies he hits. If he hits an enemy, he has a few seconds to recast the ability as Dice, which is the exact same unless Renekton has Fury. When casting Dice with 50 Fury, the ability will deal bonus damage and lower the armor of enemies he hits. Renekton's ultimate is Dominus. He grows in size, which increases the reach of all his abilities and attacks. Additionally, he gains bonus health, extra Fury generation, and continuously damages nearby enemies. Maokai's passive is Sap Magic. After 5 spells are cast near Maokai, he is empowered by Magical Sap. When empowered, his next basic attack will heal him for a percentage of his max health.
While it doesn't make him invincible in lane, he'll regain lots of health in large fights. His first ability is Arcane Smash. Maokai damages and slows targets in a line. Targets immediately around Maokai are knocked backwards. This nuance is especially useful when combined with his second skill. Twisted Advance is up next. Maokai quickly travels to target enemy, damaging and rooting it in place. For those of you who analyze the power of abilities during the spotlight, this is rank 1 of the skill. By rank 5, the duration of the root is doubled. Third comes Sapling Toss. Maokai tosses his sapling to a target area, dealing damage where it lands. After a brief delay, the sapling comes to life, chasing down enemy targets nearby. When it reaches the enemy, it explodes, dealing more damage. The sapling lasts for 25 seconds and gives a ring of sight where it stands. Enemies who walk nearby are then chased down. Maokai's ultimate is Vengeful Maelstrom. Maokai creates an area on the ground. Allies inside of it take reduced damage from minions, monsters, and champions, but not turrets. When Maokai deactivates the ability, enemies inside that ring take damage, with bonus damage based on the amount of damage the ability reduced. While the ability doesn't look too impressive blocking Ryze's basic attacks, wait until you see it in a teamfight. Jarvan's passive is Martial Cadence. When Jarvan hits any enemy, he deals a percent of its current health in bonus damage. This ability cannot hit the same target more than once every few seconds, but he can freely switch between targets to deal bonus damage to all of them. Jarvan's first ability is Dragon Strike. He deals physical damage to enemy targets in a line, reducing their armor. Second is Golden Aegis. Jarvan immediately shields himself from a flat amount of damage. The shield grows stronger with a number of enemy champions present. Additionally, upon activating the shield, nearby enemies are slowed. Demacian Standard is Jarvan's third ability. At all times, Jarvan has increased attack speed and armor. When activated, Jarvan throws a flag to target location, dealing damage to enemies it hits. After landing, the flag grants armor and attack speed to nearby allies, which doubles his own passive benefit. Additionally, Jarvan may use Dragon Strike aimed at Demacian Standard. If it connects, he is pulled to his flag, knocking up enemies along his path. Jarvan's ultimate is Cataclysm. Jarvan leaps at target enemy, damaging it and creating a ring of impassable terrain around the landing zone for a few seconds. Jarvan may reactivate the ability to destroy the terrain if it suits his purposes. Cataclysm combines well with Dragon Strike and Demacian Standard, allowing you to block off an enemy and simply back off if needed. Hit by the nuke will also leave this trail behind them as they move. While on the trail, Nocturne gains bonus damage, move speed, and can pass through other units. Shroud of Darkness passively gives Nocturne bonus attack speed. On activate, he creates a spell shield on himself for a few seconds. If it successfully blocks a spell, his passive attack speed bonus is doubled for a few seconds. Unspeakable Horror tethers to target enemy, dealing damage over time. If the tether is not broken, the target becomes feared. Paranoia is Nocturne's ultimate. On activate, all enemy champions lose sight of allied minions, turrets, and each other. Enemy champions can only see units in their own vision range. Nocturne can then reactivate the ability to quickly travel to an enemy champion, dealing damage when he arrives. His 3 non-ultimate abilities are actually 2 skills in one. After using each skill, the secondary version is available for a few seconds. Sonic Wave / Resonating Strike sends out a skill shot nuke. If it hits an enemy, Lee Sin may dash to that target, damaging it and dealing extra damage based on the target's missing health. With Safeguard / Iron Will, Lee Sin rushes to target allied minion or champion, shielding it and himself when he arrives. You may also self-cast the ability to receive the shield without dashing. Afterwards, Lee Sin may cast Iron Will, which temporarily gives him increased lifesteal, spell vamp, and armor. Tempest / Cripple damages nearby enemies and reveals them for a few seconds. Lee Sin may then cast Cripple, slowing the movement and attack speeds of nearby targets hit by Tempest. This slow gradually dies out over its duration. Lee Sin's ultimate is Dragon's Rage. Target enemy champion is damaged and knocked back. Enemies struck by the rebounding champion also take damage and are knocked into the air. Lee Sin's passive is Flurry. Following every ability cast, Lee Sin's next 2 basic attacks are faster and refund 10 energy each. This buff does not stack upon itself, so spacing out your abilities will maximize your gains. Seer is a skill shot nuke, dealing damage when it strikes an enemy. If the target is ablaze, Brand also stuns the target for a short time. After a short delay, Pillar of Flame deals damage to all enemy units in an area. Targets already ablaze take significant bonus damage. Conflagration immediately damages target enemy. If the target is already ablaze, Conflagration also hits all nearby enemies. Bran's ultimate is Pyroclasm. Bran shoots out a fireball that bounces from target to target. The missile initially moves slowly, allowing enemies to spread out. However, if the fireball targets an enemy ablaze, the missile speeds up, going faster with every subsequent target ablaze.
Rumble's passive is Junkyard Titan. If Rumble hits 100 heat, he overheats, which gives him significant bonus damage on his basic attacks, but silences him until he cools back down to 0. Additionally, while Rumble stays 50 heat and above, he enters the danger zone, which makes each of his non-ultimate abilities stronger. Rumble's first ability is Flame Spitter. Rumble burns enemies in a cone in front of him for 3 seconds. While in the danger zone, Flame Spitter deals bonus damage. Second is Scrap Shield. Rumble shields himself from damage for a short time and gains a temporary movement speed boost. While in the danger zone, the shield and movement haste are stronger. With Electro Harpoon, Rumble shoots out a skill shot nuke that damages and slows the first enemy it hits. Rumble then has a few seconds to cast the ability a second time for free, even if he overheats. The slows from these nukes stack, allowing you to hinder 2 opponents or severely slow 1. The Danger Zone bonus for Electro Harpoon increases the damage and slow. Rumble's ultimate is the Equalizer. Rumble fires off a chain of missiles, damaging enemies in a line and leaving a trail of fire in its wake that damages and slows enemies standing on top of it. The Equalizer uses a new targeting type. Activate the ability, click and hold down your left mouse button on the origin point, then move your mouse and release when you're happy with how you're aiming the skill. You can cancel targeting by right-clicking. It doesn't really matter which direction you send the missiles, just be sure you paint the right area. Note that this bonus only works if you can actually see the enemy she's hunting. Tumble causes Vayne to roll toward your mouse cursor when you activate the ability. Immediately upon tumbling, Vayne's next attack will deal significant bonus damage. Tumble also resets Vayne's auto attack timer, allowing you to hit a target, tumble, and quickly hit him again. With Silver Bolts, Vayne's third consecutive attack and/or ability on an enemy will deal significant bonus true damage. Note that hitting an alternate target will start the combo over on the new foe. Condemn damages and knocks back a single enemy. If the target is knocked into a wall, he gets stunned and takes bonus damage. Note that this spell applies 1 tick of Silver Bolts. Vayne's ultimate is Final Hour, which buffs her for a few seconds. While activated, Vayne gains bonus attack damage, Tumble will cause Vayne to stealth for a short time, and the bonus movement speed from Night Hunter is greatly increased. Oriana's passive is Clockwork Windup. All of Oriana's basic attacks deal bonus magic damage, increasing with ability power. Attacking the same target multiple times in a row will increase that bonus damage. Oriana's 4 main abilities are command abilities, which cause the ball to move or generate effects around it. None of Oriana's abilities come from her directly. Command Attack sends the ball to target location. Enemies struck along the path take damage. This damage decreases as it hits multiple targets, so sending the ball through a minion wave is less effective than hitting an enemy champion directly. Command Dissonance immediately sends out a charge around the ball. On activate, nearby enemies take damage. For the next few seconds, an energy field is left behind. Enemies who walk through this field are slowed, while allies who walk through move faster. Command Protect sends the ball to target allied champion, shielding him when it arrives. Enemies struck by the ball along the path are damaged. The ball is then carried by the targeted champion, who receives bonus armor and magic resist until Oriana sends the ball elsewhere. Oriana's ultimate is Command Shockwave. After a short delay, enemies surrounding the ball are damaged and thrown a fixed distance toward the ball. Note that because they move a fixed distance, they might move closer to the ball, or be shot entirely over it and farther away. Shield of Daybreak causes Leona's next attack to deal bonus damage and stun her target. This ability refreshes her attack timer, so it's ideal to use it right after making a successful attack. Eclipse temporarily gives Leona bonus armor and magic resist. After a few seconds, Leona damages all nearby enemy targets. If she damages an enemy this way, the buff duration is doubled.
Zenith Blade sends out a skill shot that damages all enemy targets in a line. Leona then blinks to the last enemy champion hit this way. Leona's ultimate is Solar Flare. Solar Flare targets an area, which explodes after a brief delay. Enemy units in the area take damage and are slowed, while enemies in the very center are also stunned. Leona's passive is Sunlight. All of Leona's abilities marked enemy units hit. Allied champions who hit these marked enemies deal bonus damage and consume the mark. His passive is Stone Skin, which bestows bonus armor and magic resist for every nearby enemy champion. Crushing Blow causes your next attack to deal bonus damage and lower the armor of whomever you hit. Activating this ability resets your attack timer, so try to use it immediately after landing a normal attack. Decoy leaves behind a copy of yourself while you turn invisible. After a brief delay, the decoy damages all nearby enemies and your stealth ends. Using Decoy looks almost identical to simply pressing S to stop, which can give you a lot of interesting tricks. Nimbus Strike causes you and 2 clones of yourself to leap toward and damage up to 3 enemies in a target area. Immediately after leaping, you gain bonus attack speed for a short time. Cyclone is Monkey King's ultimate. Cyclone gives you bonus movement speed and damages nearby enemies for a few seconds. Any enemies hit by Cyclone are also knocked into the air, but only once per ability cast. Tryndamere's passive is Battle Fury. Tryndamere's attacks, critical strikes, and killing blows build Fury. As Tryndamere gains Fury, his critical strike chance increases. Bloodlust gives Tryndamere bonus damage based on how much health he has. He gains a small amount of damage for being full, but he gains the most benefit at 1 health. Tryndamere may activate Bloodlust to consume all of his Fury, healing him based on how much Fury was used. Mocking Shout reduces the attack damage of all nearby enemy champions. Enemies that had their backs turned are also slowed for a few seconds. Spinning Slash sends Tryndamere to target location, damaging all enemies along his path. Every time Tryndamere lands a critical strike, the cooldown on Spinning Slash decreases. Undying Rage gives Tryndamere bonus Fury and makes him immune to death for a few seconds, holding at 1 health if he were to take fatal damage. This ability can be cast while stunned, silenced, or otherwise incapacitated. As an added note, you typically want to use Bloodlust to heal yourself right as Undying Rage ends to help you survive. Blitzcrank's passive is Mana Barrier. When Blitzcrank gets low on health, he gains a temporary shield based off his current mana. Blitzcrank does not lose any mana in the process, but if you happen to be empty when it activates, you won't get much of a shield. Rocket Grab sends out a skill shot nuke, which damages and stuns the first enemy it hits. Immediately after hitting, it pulls the enemy to you. Overdrive gives Blitzcrank bonus movement and attack speed for a few seconds. Power Fist causes Blitzcrank's next basic attack to deal bonus damage and knock the target into the air. Using this ability will reset your attack timer, so using it immediately after landing an attack will give you more damage output. Static Field is Blitzcrank's ultimate. Passively, it deals damage to a random enemy every few seconds. On activation, Blitzcrank damages and silences all nearby enemies, but deactivates the passive until it cools down.
Shaco's passive is Backstab. All of Shaco's basic attacks deal bonus damage when striking a target from behind. Deceive causes Shaco to blink, turning invisible for a short time. If Shaco lands a basic attack a few seconds after using Deceive, it will automatically deal a critical strike for bonus damage. Deceive is the most important ability for attack damage Shaco, but the least important when focusing on ability power. Jack-in-the-Box places an immobile box on the ground, which lasts for a while. After a short time, it turns invisible. Any enemy that walks near an invisible Jack-in-the-Box causes it to wake up, fearing nearby enemies, attacking them, and then quickly dying. Always take Jack-in-the-Box at level 1, maxing it after Deceive for AD Shaco, or first for AP Shaco. 2 Shiv Poison passively causes Shaco's basic attacks to slow enemies. Minions that Shaco attacks also have a chance to miss their attacks while slowed. Shaco may activate 2 Shiv Poison to directly damage and slow target enemy, but this disables the passive slow until it cools back down. Always take 2 Shiv Poison at level 3 and max it after Jack-in-the-Box. Hallucinate is Shaco's ultimate. Upon casting Hallucinate, Shaco creates a clone of himself, dodging all attacks and abilities aimed at him in the process. The Hallucinate clone deals damage just as Shaco would, with one added benefit. When the clone dies, it explodes, dealing significant damage to nearby enemies. After a brief delay, Rupture damages, knocks up, and slows all enemies in an area. This ability can be cast in the Fog of War to hit enemies you can't see. I take Rupture at level 1 and max it by level 13. Feral Scream damages and silences all enemies in a cone. I take Feral Scream at level 2 and max it by level 9. Vorpal Spikes passively causes Cho'Gath's basic attacks to deal additional damage to all enemies in front of him, including the main target. Vorpal Spikes may be toggled on or off just in case you don't want the extra damage. I take Vorpal Spikes at level 4 and max it last. Feast deals immense true damage to a single enemy, dealing significant damage to a champion and even more damage to minions and monsters. If Cho'Gath kills the enemy with Feast, he grows larger and gains a Feast stack that increases his maximum health. Feast can only stack a few times, but stacks last until death, upon which he loses half his stacks. Powerball causes Rammus to roll into a ball, continuously gaining bonus movement speed over a short time, but disabling his ability to land basic attacks. If Rammus collides with an enemy during Powerball, the effect ends, damaging and slowing surrounding enemies for a short time. I take Powerball at level 2 and leave it at rank 1 until I've maxed his other abilities. Defensive Ball Curl gives Rammus significantly increased armor and magic resist for a few seconds. Additionally, any enemy who attacks Rammus while in Defensive Ball Curl is damaged in return. Also, Defensive Ball Curl and Powerball are mutually exclusive. Casting one of these abilities will immediately end the other. I take Defensive Ball Curl at level 1, bringing it to rank 3 by level 5, leaving it there until levels 12 and 13 for the last 2 ranks. Puncturing Taunt forces target enemy to attack Rammus for a short time, lowering the target's armor in the process. I take Puncturing Taunt at level 3 or 4, depending on how quickly I want to gank. I max it by level 10. Rammus's ultimate is Tremors. Tremors damages all nearby enemies, including structures, every second for a few seconds. As with all ultimates, I level Tremors at levels 6, 11, and 16. Jax's passive is Relentless Assault. Every time Jax lands a basic attack, he gains bonus attack speed for a few seconds. This bonus stacks multiple times up to a cap. Leap Strike sends Jax lunging toward target minion, monster, champion, or ward, whether friend or foe. If the target is an enemy, Jax will also damage it. Max Leap Strike by level 13 for mobility and damage output, taking 1 point by level 3 for jungling, and a point at level 1 when laning. Empower causes Jax's next basic attack to deal bonus damage. This ability will reset Jax's attack timer, meaning you can use it as an almost free attack if you time it correctly. Additionally, if you activate Empower before using Leap Strike, it will deal damage on top of Leap Strike. For maximum damage output, max Empower by level 9, with your first point at level 2. Counter-Strike buffs Jax for a few seconds, causing him to dodge every attack made against him for the duration. At the end of this duration, Jax stuns and damages all nearby enemies. Counter-Strike deals bonus damage based on how many attacks Jax dodged. Take just 1 point in Counter-Strike early and max it last. When jungling, grab it at level 1. Jax's ultimate is Grandmaster's Might. Passively, it grants bonus damage to every third consecutive attack Jax makes, though this counter resets if Jax waits too long between attacks. When activated, it grants Jax bonus attack damage and ability power for a few seconds. Ezreal's passive is Rising Spell Force. Every time Ezreal hits a target with one of his abilities, he gains a stack of Rising Spell Force up to a cap. Each stack grants Ezreal bonus attack speed for a few seconds. Mystic Shot fires out a skill shot nuke that damages the first enemy it hits, also applying on-hit effects like Lifesteal and Sheen. If Mystic Shot strikes a target, all of Ezreal's cooldowns are reduced by 1 second. As his primary damage tool, I take Mystic Shot at level 1 and max it first. Essence Flux fires out a line nuke that hits all allied and enemy champions it passes through. Enemy champions are damaged and have their attack speed slowed for a few seconds, while allies gain bonus attack speed. Granting great poke and utility, I take Essence Flux early and max it second by level 13. Arcane Shift causes Ezreal to blink to a nearby location. Upon arriving, he fires a bolt of energy at the nearest enemy, damaging it. Arcane Shift only grants Ezreal a stack of Rising Spell Force if it fires and hits an enemy target. Mostly used for movement, I take 1 point in Arcane Shift early, but max it last. Ezreal's ultimate is True Shot Barrage. Ezreal charges up and fires a massive wave of energy in a line, damaging all enemies it encounters. True Shot Barrage deals less damage as it passes through more targets, down to a cap. Twitch's passive is Deadly Venom. Twitch's basic attacks apply stacks of Deadly Venom up to a cap. Each stack deals damage every second for a few seconds. Ambush allows Twitch to turn invisible, which makes him undetectable to the naked eye. However, true sight such as vision wards, turrets, and oracles will reveal him. While invisible, Twitch gains bonus movement speed, and upon leaving stealth, he gains bonus attack speed for a few seconds. While Twitch normally takes a very short time to turn invisible, taking damage will delay this effect. In general, take a point in ambush early and max it by level 13. Venom Cask tosses out a cask that explodes in an area, slowing and inflicting 2 stacks of deadly venom on all enemies it hits. Take a point in Venom Cask early, and if you plan on using the slow to set up early kills, delay ambush and max Venom Cask by level 13, waiting on ambush until later. Expunge immediately damages all nearby enemies based on the number of deadly venom stacks placed upon each one. Expunge does not deal any damage to targets unaffected by deadly venom. In order to deal as much damage as possible, I recommend maxing Expunge immediately. Twitch's ultimate is Spray and Pray. Spray and Pray causes Twitch's basic attacks to pass through his targets to hit all enemies in a line for the next few seconds. The target in front takes full damage, while enemies in the back take reduced damage down to a cap. Every enemy Twitch hits will receive stacks of deadly venom and any other on-hit effects he has. Katarina's passive is Veracity. Whenever Katarina kills or assists in the kill of an enemy champion, her ultimate's cooldown is reduced, and all of her basic abilities are immediately refreshed. Bouncing Blade throws out a dagger that bounces from target enemy, damaging each enemy it hits and leaving behind a mark for a few seconds. Katarina's basic attacks or other abilities will consume this mark to deal bonus damage. As Katarina's biggest damage tool, I recommend taking it at level 1 and maxing it immediately. Sinister Steel immediately damages all nearby enemies. If she hits an enemy champion with it, Katarina briefly gains bonus movement speed. Absolutely take a point early to help trigger the marks from Bouncing Blades. If you want even more burst damage, start maxing it early. Otherwise, save it for last. Shunpo teleports Katarina behind her target, dealing damage if it's an enemy. For the next few seconds, Katarina receives reduced damage. Absolutely take a point at level 2 for the extra mobility Shunpo provides. If you're looking for extra mobility with a little bit of extra damage as well, max Shunpo second. Katarina's ultimate is Death Lotus. When activated, Katarina spins around, constantly tossing daggers at the 3 nearest enemy champions. Struck enemies take massive damage and receive reduced healing for a few seconds.